Jnanadipesha yudhati Vishekati Shamshantam Samskarai Samskrito Dvijaha Indriyeshu Kriya Yagyan Jnanadipesha Juvati Nishkati Shamshanantai Samskarai Samskrito Dvijaha Indriyeshu Kriya Yagyan Jnanadipesha Juvati Nishchikadishman Shantai Samskarai Samskito Tijaha Indriyeshu Kriya Yagyan Jnanadipeshu Juvati Nishikadi, the beginning of life, the purificatory process of Garbhadan, performed when the father begets a child by discharging semen into the womb of the mother. Shmashan Antai, and at death, when the body is put into a crematorium and burnt to ashes. Samskarai, by such purificatory processes. Samskritaha, purified. Dvijaha, a twice-born Brahmana. Indriyeshu, into the senses. Kriya Yagyan, activities and sacrifices, which elevate one to a higher planetary system. Jnana Dipeshu, by enlightening in real knowledge. Juvati, offers. Translation. A twice-born Brahmana Dvija gains his life by the grace of his parents through the process of purification known as Garbhadan. There are also other processes of purification until the end of life, when the funeral ceremony Antishti Kriya is performed. Thus, in due course, a qualified Brahmana becomes uninterested in materialistic activities and sacrifices, but he offers essential sacrifices in full knowledge into the working senses, which are illuminated by the fire of knowledge. Please repeat. A twice-born Brahmana Dvija gains his life by the grace of his parents through the process of purification known as Garbhadan. There are also other processes of purification until the end of life, when the funeral ceremony Anti-Ishti Kriya is performed. Thus, in due course, a qualified Brahmana becomes uninterested in materialistic activities and sacrifices, but he offers essential sacrifices in full knowledge into the working senses, which are illuminated by the fire of knowledge. Prabhupada Ki Jai. Those interested in materialistic activities remain in the cycle of birth and death. Pravritti marg, or the inclination to stay in the material world to enjoy varieties of sense gratification, has been explained in the previous verse. Now in this verse it is explained that one who has perfect Brahminical knowledge rejects the process of elevation to higher planets and accepts nivritti marg. In other words, he prepares himself to go back to Godhead. Those who are not Brahmanas but atheists do not know what is pravritti marg or nivritti marg. They simply want to obtain pleasure at any cost. Our Krishna consciousness movement is therefore training devotees to give up the pravritti marg and accept the nivritti marg in order to return home back to Godhead. This is a little difficult to understand, but it is very easy if one takes to Krishna consciousness seriously and tries to understand Krishna. A Krishna conscious person can understand that performing yajna according to the karma kanda system is a useless waste of time, and that merely giving up the karma kanda and accepting the process of speculation is also unfruitful. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur has sung in his Prema Bhakti Chandrika, Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, Kevala Vishera Banda, Amrita Balya Yeva Kaya, Nana Yoni Sadapiri, Kadaraya Bhakshana Kari, Dara Janma Adate, Adapate Yaya. A life of Karma Kanda or Jnana Kanda is like a poison pot, and one who takes to such a life is doomed. In the Karma Kanda system, one is destined to accept birth and death again and again. Similarly, with Jnana Kanda, one falls down again into this material world. Only worship of the Supreme Person offers one the safety of going back to Godhead. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Anantanina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So see the verse again. A twice-born Brahmana Dvija gains his life by the grace of his parents through the process of purification known as Garbhadan. There are also other processes of purification until the end of life, when the funeral ceremony Anteshta Kriya is performed. Thus, in due course, a qualified Brahmana becomes uninterested in materialistic activities and sacrifices, but he offers essential sacrifices in full knowledge into the working senses, which are illuminated by the fire of knowledge. So this section of the Bhagavatam is describing the two different paths that the Vedas have described or propagated. So there's a path of Pravritti Marg, and then there's a path of Nivritti Marg. And the process of Pravritti Marg is that for one who wants to stay in the material world, it means he rises himself from a lower status to a higher status in the material world. Fulfills his material desires through different ritualistic ceremonies, animal sacrifices, public welfare activities, and then he attains the heavenly planets. So, but then again, he returns back to earth again, and it's described how he comes in the form of rain, and then becomes herbs, and then is again reborn as another jiva. So in this path is a path of enjoyment. The living entity tries to enjoy the material world, but in a Vedic way that's prescribed in the Vedas. But still, it's entangling us in the material world. It's not liberating us from this material world, even although it's a process that's prescribed in the Vedas. But the path of Nivritti Marg is another process that actually liberates us from this material world. And it means that our material desires become destroyed and purifies us to become fit for going back to Godhead, to eternal blissful life. So this is the path of detachment. So the path of Pravritti Marg is a path of enjoyment, and the path of Nivritti Marg is a path of detachment. So the whole process is to purify us by the different samskars, by different sacrifices. He comes to the point where he gives up these sacrifices for material enjoyment, and he becomes enlightened in real knowledge. And this actually, then he attains the planets, like it's described in the later verses, that he can attain Brahmaloka. And then from there, he attains a spiritual state. He becomes more elevated, and he eventually goes back to Godhead. But this is a very long and maybe difficult path for the modern age, when people are not really following anything in the Vedas, according to the Vedas. Really, most people are not even following the process, that's prescribed to even enjoy the material world. They're trying to enjoy without the Vedas. They're trying to enjoy, unconditionally, unrestrictedly performing sinful activities. So it's vikarma. It's not even according to the karma kanda. It's totally vikarma. So most people want to enjoy this material world without having any restrictions, without any prescriptions from the Vedas. They want to enjoy it, and they perform sinful activities to enjoy themselves. And so they actually, the Vedic process is actually trying to raise us to the higher planets, to even at least to the heavenly planets, and going back to Godhead. But the other, the adharmic way is to take us back, to go down to hell. So it's taking the jivas down to the hellish planets. So most people are not even aware that this is what's happening. They're following their senses and mind, whatever they want to do, and taking them down to the hellish planets. So this is actually against, the Vedic process. The process of the Vedas is to try to raise us, our consciousness, to a higher level. But most people are not interested. They just want to enjoy as Prabhupada says, they simply want to obtain pleasure at any cost. So it doesn't really matter to them. They don't really believe in another life, so they don't think they're going to suffer for it, and they don't really accept anything. The process of the Vedas has prescribed. So it's very difficult for most people to even come to the path of pravritti marg. Even that is difficult for most people. They don't want to follow any rituals. Never mind the nivritti marg, which is detaching oneself from this material world. So Prabhupada has very kindly given us the path of Krishna consciousness, because actually we don't have to worry about these paths and these rituals and this whole long process. Prabhupada's given us a very simple process of Krishna consciousness. Simply by chanting the holy names, one dissolves his entanglement in these material activities, and after this one becomes very much attracted to Krishna, and then this awakens our love for Krishna. So this path is actually much more easily acceptable by people in Kali Yuga, because people are not so much inclined to perform all these different rituals, And Prabhupada's purport is that if we take up the path of Krishna consciousness, then we can take up Nivritti Marg easily and prepare ourselves to go back to Godhead. So in other words, if we place ourselves at Krishna's lotus feet and we just chant Hare Krishna, and so we don't need to take so much trouble in trying to arrange the return to the spiritual world, the different margs, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, this is very easy. He's given us a very simple process of chanting the holy names, taking prasadam, and following the regulated principles and the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. It's a very simple process. And Brahminical life is actually meant to be simple. It's not meant to be a complicated affair. And to be simple, it means we need to perform some austerity, because otherwise we just get entangled in this complicated world. So the simple practice is simple living, high thinking. So this means that we simplify our life so that we can think of higher things, not that we complicate our life and we can't think of anything else. So we've actually been given in a very, very simplified form, and very, very easy to understand what we should do and what we shouldn't do. So in the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami has given it very clear guidelines how to practice devotional service. Very, very easy and simple process. So like verse 2, there's 6 activities that need to be avoided. And verse 3 is 6 qualities that we should perform to enhance our bhakti. So verse 2 is activities that will destroy our bhakti, and verse 3 is what will enhance our bhakti. So he's basically given us, in a nutshell, all the activities that we shouldn't do and all the activities that we should do to actually attain the spiritual world. So we don't have to think about how we're supposed to perform. We don't have to read everything and work it all out ourselves. It's already given to us on a plate. He's given it as an ABC language that we should and shouldn't do. So the activities are, the first one is atyahara. So eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. We shouldn't do those things. Eating more than necessary is it's more that if it's not in connection with Krishna, then it's a problem. If you're eating more than necessary. But if you're taking prasad and you eat a little bit, it's not such a big problem, still in connection with Krishna. So if you're respecting prasad and you're staying at the Lord's mercy, then you can eat more. If you're staying at to enjoy the Lord's stuff, reflecting more funds